So it's Labor Day weekend, and I thought, I could use a little bit of R&R, something, something to cheer me up, a little bit of humor. And so I decided to, let me find a movie I can watch that's funny. And I found this hilarious movie. So, I usually tell stories, but I'm going to do a film review today. So I'm going to tell you about the film. I'm not going to tell you the title yet. I'm going to see if you can guess it. It's a 1989 film. Oh, we love the 80s. Director is Ted Kacha. And it's a comedy, or what you might call a dark comedy. Either way, it was hilarious. Yes, it was a little macabre, and so you got to factor that in. But I don't think it was that way. I don't think it did anything that would gross you out, really. So we have these two salesmen in New York, young guys just trying to make a buck. And they're working extra overtime weekends because they're trying to get ahead in the company. Larry and Richard. Now, Richard's kind of the straight man, and Larry's the goof off. And they're working away, they're accountants, and they discover, no, they're salesmen, but I don't know, they're doing accounting. And they discover some accounting errors in the books, and they decide, oh my God, something's amiss. And it turns out that there's a guy in the records who apparently died 4 times. And like his family just kept collecting the insurance policy, and then he kept like coming back to life, and then they would collect it again. And so they decide, oh, we got to tell the boss. This is major. We got to tell the boss. And they go to tell their boss, Mr. Lomax. And Mr. Lomax is not happy about this because it turns out Mr. Lomax is actually the one defrauding the insurance company. So Mr. Lomax decides, oh, I'm going to invite them to my beach house in the Hamptons, and they're just going to think they're coming here to have a good time. But then I'm going to get my mobster, Vinny, to knock them off and eliminate my problems. So most of the film takes place over a weekend, a Labor Day weekend in the Hamptons at a house owned by someone named Bernie. That's right, Mr. Lomax's first name is Bernie. And so there's a sudden plot twist when instead of the mobster guy killing the 2 salesmen, he decides, forget that, I'm just going to kill the boss. He's a problem. He gets together with some other guys, and they decide, you know what? Bernie has gotten too careless and too greedy. He's no longer useful to us. Sound familiar? And so Vinny, the hitman, decides to go and kill Bernie and make it look like the 2 salesmen were the culprits. So when the 2 salesmen arrive, they discover the body. And the whole movie is really just about how they handle that situation. Because they just want to have fun. They're like, we just want to have booze and women and party. And this guy had to go and off himself and destroy our whole weekend. Your typical self-centered folks. As Larry puts it, why couldn't he wait until Monday to kill himself? Because, of course, it was made to look like a suicide. And so Larry and Richard end up deciding they should just pretend that he didn't die just for a little bit so that they could enjoy their weekend. And so the whole weekend is just a whole bunch of hijinks of them trying to transport the corpse here, there, and everywhere to try to convince people that he's still alive and well. And what's hilarious about the movie is that so many people are fooled. Like all of his friends and admirers, all these people that have known him for years that think that, he's just the cat's meow. They all hang out at his house. They all love him. They borrow money from him. They he's their man. Those people are the ones that are so easily fooled. So there's like hundreds of people around him and nobody realizes he's kaput. His girlfriend even does the deed with him while he is no longer on the mortal coil. We don't even know how that happened, but it did. Even the person that did the deed starts to believe he's still up and about. And like they're taking him all over town and making him wave at people. And this is what's so hilarious about the film, right? That all of these people who are supposedly good friends with him, admirers, girlfriends, employees, hitmen, right? All of these people, they all are convinced that he's actually still living and breathing, when he very clearly is not. And all these dudes have to do is just keep posing his body in different positions and telling different stories, coming up with different excuses. And so there's all of these, witnesses that are like, oh yeah, I saw Bernie on the boat. He waved at me. Another person's like, oh yeah, I saw Bernie playing Monopoly with the guy on the deck. And the other person's like, oh yeah, I slept with him. Right? We have all these witnesses, all of these completely unreliable witnesses to say that this guy is breathing and living his best life. And, has an uncanny resemblance to Labor Day 2025. Just saying. And I think the film is just so well done because the premise, I think if I read it in a script, someone presented it to me, if I was a producer, I would be like, yeah, no one's going to believe that. Right? Because it's like, how long can you really reasonably convince people that someone who is no longer living and breathing is still living and breathing? But they really do such a good job. Like, they make it so believable. At the same time, it's so hilarious. I mean, these guys are clever. You know, they're desperate is what they are. They're selfish, self-centered people who are just interested in, like, you know, sleeping with women and getting drunk and going to parties. And that motivates them to do whatever they have to do to make that happen. You know, really craven dudes. And all of the people who are friends and admirers of Bernie are also all really craven. And so I feel like the film is meant to be a critique, like a social critique of people who are so concerned with just, you know, pleasure and, you know, self-absorption and just taking advantage of other people for their own desires. Is, you know, this is the group that's really being critiqued in this film. You know, they care about appearances. They care about, you know, just getting things from people. You know, like Bernie, they show how he, you know, really mistreats the people that work for him. And there's all these shallow people at the party who are just talking about shallow things. At one point, there's this man telling this woman that she needs to get all this plastic surgery if she wants to look, you know, acceptable. At one point, some of them are at a dinner and they're just obsessed with having the most expensive kind of decadent food they can buy. Women are totally objectified throughout the film. They're just sex objects, and almost all of the men in the film kind of relentlessly objectify them. There's a wonderful little, you know, bit of homophobia and transphobia that shows up in the fake suicide letter. And then there's an artist, an author who has this idea that there was that maybe Sherlock Holmes and Watson were lovers and were secretly married, and she's of course portrayed as ridiculous and, you know, not accepted by this crowd. The children are really rude to their elders. So we just have this whole picture being painted, right, of like the uber rich and the decadence of this community. And it's because of the decadence of the community that they don't even notice when their main character is no longer actually there. And so he's the life of the party with no life. And so it also just speaks to that superficiality, like what kind of people get put in the main character role, what kind of people get, you know, pushed to the top. Like everyone on the island is like, Bernie, he's my man. And yet it's so vacuous because even when he's not breathing, nobody notices because, you know, they put him in this position, but they don't really care about him. And he's not really anybody that actually does anything. He's like a figurehead. He's kind of a symbolic representation of their lifestyle. And he's just somebody who allows them to have the opportunity to party and to have access to drugs and alcohol and women and the big house and the beach. And, you know, he's just a vehicle in order for them to obtain what they want. And this is why they can maintain the hilarity of the film, why it's so humorous, because you don't ever have any sympathy for the character Bernie. Oh, and let's not leave race out. There's only one black character in the entire film. And so I just think the filmmaker did a really good job of representing a certain community or culture, a certain main character and his followers, and kind of what kind of culture they represent. You know, sex, drugs, money. Oh, and one detail I love is how they even make one of the assassins a priest. And then even the police on the island are incompetent. The ambulance drivers are incompetent. You know, so the filmmaker is painting a picture, right? I think it might seem like it's in broad brushstrokes, but it's because it's meant to be funny. And it's, you know, he's painting a picture and he's doing a critique, a social critique of this particular slice of society. But as the viewer, you are constantly thinking, how can these people be so stupid to think that this guy is think that this guy is still breathing? Like, how can they all be so dumb? Like, the evidence that he is living is so paltry. Nobody's had a conversation with him. He's never seen by himself walking or talking without other people. His eyes are always covered. Dude is so clearly no longer with us. But it's weekend at Bernie's, so we're all pretending.